You've seen her on the ground. In Minnesota during the BLM riots, in New York and D.C. during Antifa, and on the border, facing the cartels and child traffickers head on. Now, she's here with you. This is the Sara Carter Show.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Sara Carter Show. It's Sunday, beautiful Sunday. I hope that you all went to church or had a moment with your families, and I'm glad you're joining me because it is about family today. It's all about family. It's the Department of Education. Well, the end of the Department of Education. And what I have right here in my hands is the White House, well, it's obviously a copy, executive order to end the Department of Education. And it's vitally important for those of you who don't understand this, that you not panic, that this is the best thing that can happen for our children. That our President Donald J. Trump, is doing exactly what needed to be done. And for those of you who love Ronald Reagan, and I'm going to play that later, I'm going to play a great clip of Ronald Reagan talking about the Department of Education and what needs to be done with it way back in the 80s. Yes, way back then. But before we get to the show, I want to talk to you about Native Path. Native Path is amazing. It's a collagen supplement that I am so excited about. First of all, I'm excited that they're a sponsor of the Sara Carter Show. And you know how much I love my sponsors. And that's why I'm talking about this, because I've had an opportunity to use this collagen supplement, and it is literally changing my life. First of all, my joint pain, almost gone. I work out every day, and I can honestly say that adding extra collagen into my daily life has reduced my joint pain. It has made me feel better. I look better. My hair looks better. My skin looks better. Look, when I drink my coffee, I put it in my beautiful Native Path mug so I don't forget. I'm going to show you how easy actually this is. But before I show you this, I also want to show you these other really cool products that they have. And this is, unless I drop this is Collagen PM. And they come in these really nifty packets. This one right here is my favorite. It's chocolate, of course. I love it. They also have lemon, and they have a honey chamomile. And you can mix these in your tea, in milk, in just hot water, however you want to drink this, in orange juice, I'm sure, anything. You can mix this and you can get a restful night's sleep. It not only helps you get to sleep, it adds the collagen in there so that when you're sleeping, it's restoring your body and helping you get a good night's rest. Now, as for the regular collagen, right here, this has absolutely no flavor. You can't even taste it, which is amazing. So you could just put it in your coffee. Super simple. I want to show you this. You just take a little scooper. It comes with this. Get your coffee, pour it in, get your OJ. It blends just as well in orange juice or in a hot substance. Stir it up just like that. That's it. And you're done. It doesn't have any weird flavors. There's no milk. There's no weird additives. It's all natural, and it makes you healthier. And I feel healthier every single day. And I'm reminded every single day to take my collagen. And by the way, for people over 50, you absolutely need some collagen supplements because it just is what your body needs. You start losing it as you get older, and you'll notice that in your skin, in your hair. Just take the supplement. You're going to feel young again. And I'm going to show you. It's so delicious. It's your coffee. Don't even taste it. Orange juice. You don't even taste it. Again, for my listeners and for those of you watching here on X, you will get, listen to this, 45% off. That's 45% off. You cannot beat that. Folks, that is like almost half off all of these great supplements. And all you need to do is go to trynativepath.com/Carter, CARTER. That's trynativepath.com/Carter, CARTER, 45% off. And guess what? With this exclusive discount, you get free shipping. So you don't even need to pay for shipping. You will not lose. Give it a try. Mark my words, you're going to feel great. And guess what? Then you're going to write me and tell me how great you feel. And I hope so, because I would love to bring your testimonies live on the show. So let's get to this. I am going right now to read from you from the executive order about the Department of Education. In 1979, of course, the Carter administration, like all Democrats, create more and more bureaucracy, more and more of the swamp, right? So in 1979, they established the Department of Education. It was supposed to help rural Americans, poor Americans, and the students, and help the students get ahead. It did none of that. In fact, the United States has been falling behind on a global scale on education ever since the implementation of the Department of Education. And I'll get into that in just a minute. But I want to read from this executive order. We have spent over $200 billion at a federal level on schools during the COVID-19 pandemic. That's just during COVID-19. On top of the more than 60 billion the Department of Education spends annually on federal school funding, and yet we are always falling behind. And even worse than that, so many of our students in urban school settings, rural school settings, impoverished areas are not only falling behind, teachers are literally passing them grade by grade when they can barely even read or do mathematics. Figure that one out. Figure that one out. Even with all of these standardized tests, even with everything that you think is required to move ahead, it doesn't matter. Teachers are just pushing students along. And every single person is money in the pocket of the school districts. And I know this. And I know this because one of the very biggest stories I ever broke was in Pomona Unified School District, and it busted up the school board. And it was how they were spending by the way, millions misspent, millions of dollars being misspent in the school board, supposedly to help underprivileged children with federal tax dollars. And they were wasting that money and spending it on themselves. That means on the teachers, on laptops, on projects that were actually going nowhere. And not only that, there were so many students in those impoverished areas, especially during that time. Pomona was seeing a rise in gang activity that was unimaginable. Kids were killing each other. There was a police shooting. That was also another very big story that I was involved in. And when I started to investigate that story of a 15-year-old boy that called himself Yogi, who killed a police officer, I found out not only from his friends, but from his family and from the school that he was a sophomore in high school with a basic kindergarten reading level. This is a public school. The majority of the kids there was money being supplemented for, basically for school nurseries, because there were so many pregnancies that the girls, and I'm really grateful that they had their babies and they brought them to school, but that there were so many babies in the school that they had to supplement money for the babies and for the school nursery. Children were not learning. Teachers were basically sitting in the classroom sending emails to their friends and not teaching the students. And because a lot of the parents in these impoverished areas were so busy either working or weren't in the child's life at all, some of them, the kids were left to fend for themselves. The kids weren't learning. They were left to fend for themselves. So what good is the Department of Education when our students are still failing, when they can't do the basics of reading, writing, and all of the science and social studies and civics classes that you think would be so important in their life, when they're not learning any of it, but instead are being indoctrinated into woke ideology and DEI and all of these other crazy Marxist leftist indoctrination programs that are doing nothing to educate our students, but are doing everything to separate our children from their families, separate our children from the Constitution and from the love of this country, and do it. And I'm not joking. You know this because during COVID, we saw that happen. We were actually eyewitnesses because now our kids were on lockdown. We were all in COVID prison in our houses, and we had to educate our children. We had to become their teachers. And many of us woke up to this horror of what was happening in the schools. I was blessed at the time. My youngest, all my other kids went to public school. We have 6 children altogether. 5 of them went to public schools all the way through. Annalise, our youngest, was actually at a Catholic school during COVID, and her priest and the principal of the school were doing everything to keep the school open until they could no longer do that anymore. And when she came home with me, I was grateful how math, reading, social studies, religion class were central to everything I was teaching her. But then I would call friends down in Loudoun County and in other parts of Virginia, and they were like, I don't even know what my kid's learning. It's like about all the colors of the rainbow flag. And then Terry McAuliffe came out and said, you don't need to know what your children are learning about. That was a big reason why Governor Youngkin won in the state of Virginia. Eliminating the Department of Education is nothing new. In fact, shortly after it was created, Ronald Reagan wanted to eliminate it. Take a listen to this.
I propose, and would have already started, if your hypothesis is correct, a planned and orderly transfer back to the states and local communities of functions the federal government has usurped and which it has proven it is incapable of operating. And one of the first of those would be welfare. One of the second would be in the field of education. I would like to dissolve the $10 billion National Department of Education created by President Carter and turn schools back to the local school districts where we built the greatest public school system the world has ever seen.
100%. 100%. When federal aid became federal interference. And it's exactly what President Ronald Reagan was talking about when he wanted to get rid of welfare. Because it demands of you. You can't just accept something from someone and not expect to give something back, right? It almost chains you up. It's, for example, I'm going to give you this, but I expect you to do this for me. Nothing in this world is for free. Nothing. And we need to be in charge of our future and how our children are educated. We don't need the federal government in Washington, D.C. By the way, every state is different. People are different, have different ideas about how they want to do things. It'll give us more choice for our children. We'll have more school choice. Our tax dollars will actually belong to us. But right now, what we have is a federal government mostly run by leftist Marxist bureaucrats that have utilized the Department of Education to indoctrinate our children and take them away from the basic fundamentals that make our nation so great. They are literally teaching our children to hate freedom. They are literally teaching our children to be dependent on the government. That is their goal. It became such a useful tool for these Marxists. The Russians, well, back then the Soviets, saw how wonderful a tool this was. They talked about it. Soviet intelligence. You know, back then the KGB, there's writings on this where they recruited teachers or they recruited members of the U.S. supposed federal education system to work to indoctrinate young U.S. citizens. What do you think has been happening with all this transgenderism and this confusion that they've been pushing on our children, that they've been brainwashing them since they were so young? You know, and as parents, we're responsible. We just weren't paying attention. It's like we talk a big talk, conservatives, we all believe that it's up to us. It's our free choice. We should be able to make the decisions in our own life. But yet we send our kids away to school for 8 hours plus a day with teachers that are literally indoctrinating them. And we don't even know what's going on. The majority of us don't. Some of us do. Congratulations. I can't always say I was perfect. I was not always perfect when it came to this. I would think, like, especially when I was younger, like, of course these teachers love my kids. Sophia's teacher's name was Amy. She was the sweetest lady. She loved the students. I said, what do I need to do to get my daughter Sophia ready for school? You know what she said to me? Can she read? I said, yes. Can she count to 10? I said, yes. Does she know the basics like colors and things like that? I said, yes. She said, good. She's already passed kindergarten. I said, that's unacceptable. That was the first day. And I said, how could you say that to me? She goes, I want you to take a look at my classroom. And I looked around, and granted, I speak Spanish. My mom is from a Spanish speaking country. And I realized all of a sudden, Sophia was one of the only English speaking students in the entire kindergarten classroom. I actually needed to use translators when we went to rallies. I didn't need to use it. I speak both languages. But for the Spanish speaking families, they actually handed out those UN-like translators so they could understand what was going on at the rallies. This is how backwards our system has been. This is the reason why one of them, and there's a lot more to it, like I just described, woke, Marxist ideology, all that other junk, why our children have been thrown so far behind. I want to play a very special moment. I was almost in tears when I saw President Trump actually sign this executive order. Best thing for our children ever.
Let's use that same pen.
Signing it. All the students around him also signing it. Absolutely fantastic. Amazing. Amazing. Our president has done more for this nation in the few months that he's been in office than almost any other president. Well, more than any president in modern U.S. history, almost more than any president in all of American history. We are living in historic times, and nobody said it better. For all of those who are complaining, for all of those leftist radicals and unions that don't care at all about our children, who want to give the worst teachers tenure, meaning it's impossible to fire them, impossible to get rid of them. I want you to take just a moment to listen to Stephen Miller here talk about what they really want, what their real intentions are. Take a listen.
The Department of Education here in Washington, D.C. is overwhelmingly staffed by radical left Marxist bureaucrats who are in every way hostile to Western civilization, hostile to American interests, and hostile to our founding documents and culture. And so they are using their position and influence inside the Department of Education to try to force agendas like radical gender ideology, like critical race theory, like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all kinds of anti-America curricula and policies on the American people, on our students, on our children. So it's taking away from parents the ability to control and direct the education of their own kids, of their own families. So what we're going to do under President Trump's leadership and direction is to return that authority to the greatest extent possible to the local level where parents can control outcomes, while at the same time making sure that no federal funds are used to support racism, to support gender ideology, or support other ideas and principles that are offensive to the American taxpayer.
And he's absolutely right. I do not want my taxpayer dollars going to that at all. And let me give you just a little example before we wrap this up. And I don't know how many of you have experienced this. My best friend was in a state of shock when she told me this. Is she was in Virginia at a public school. Her twin daughters went to school there. She's no longer there. They've moved out of state now to another state. And she called me up and she said, "You won't believe this, but one of the daughters was in class and had asked the teacher why they had the rainbow flag and not the American flag. And the teacher said, well, the American flag is all about war. This flag is all about love. And the American flag is not a symbol that she wanted in her classroom, that it was a symbol that was very divisive and she didn't want it. And her daughter then proceeded to tell the teacher, well, my father is in the military and he serves our country and he works at the Pentagon and he's in the Army and I love my dad and he's not any of that. And she said, well, basically that's too bad. I'm not putting the American flag up in the classroom. So here you have a public school teacher that decided that the pride flag, the gay flag, the flag with, I don't even know, a zillion colors that I don't even know what they mean, was more important than the American flag in a public school paid by U.S. taxpayers, a good portion of which in that area served in the United States military, already indoctrinating students into this Marxist radical ideology. And Stephen Miller is absolutely right. It is our duty to give it back to the local level. This is what is important to understand. Our schools will be stronger. We will have more choice. Our students will have the ability to do more when their parents are more vested in them, when their communities are more vested in them, when the state is more vested in them. And we'll be able to root out the bad apples and get rid of them. And I hope that these unions end as well, because they have done nothing but harm our children. We've seen the same thing in our universities. Just look at what happened in Columbia, at Columbia University and across the country with these radical Islamists on the streets threatening Jewish students, threatening our basic principles, what we stand for, what we believe in, the principles of freedom, what our nation is founded on. No longer should we have teachers that turn our heroes into monsters. We should have teachers and professors that teach the truth and that aren't afraid to expose the truth, that aren't racist and judge only by the color of the skin, but that actually teach our students to believe in this nation and to believe in the foundation for which it stands, which is what our founding fathers intended. And if you're a parent out there like me, your job is to get out there to help your child to navigate these dangerous waters with these radicals, to root them out and to get rid of them, and to go to school board meetings and to find out what's really happening in your schools. You will not believe it. If you haven't done so yet, please do. Because when you start looking at the books and the teachers and the board and all the people involved in the education system, it is going to blow your mind how many of them aren't there to educate your child, but are there to indoctrinate them. Thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. You don't know how much you mean to me and how much it means to me to have you here with me. And thank you again, Native Path. Thank you for the collagen. I feel great. I can't wait to try more of your products. Folks, don't forget nativepath.com/Carter, CARTER. You can also get beyond just the daily collagen. You can get the night collagen PM. It's absolutely wonderful. And I look forward to being with you again this coming week. Please make sure you're subscribed to the Sara Carter Show on your favorite podcast app. We really appreciate it. Follow me on Truth at Sarah Carter Official, on X at Sarah Carter DC, and on Instagram at SCarterDC. God bless you. God bless our great nation. God bless President Trump and everything that he is doing. And God bless the great state of Texas.